This is Central to NWA, a UCA podcast. I'm your host, Paul Gatling, and we are bringing the University of Central Arkansas to Northwest Arkansas. Each episode, we will talk with leaders, alumni, and innovators driving this region forward, people who are shaping industries and defining what is next for our state. Let's get started. Welcome into another edition of Central to NWA, a UCA podcast. I am Paul Gatling, your host here in Northwest Arkansas, and today, really excited about our guest to have Corey Hufty. She is the Executive Director of Philanthropy for Arkansas Children's in Northwest Arkansas. Corey, really appreciate you being here, and it's good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, you and I have crossed paths a few times in our previous business career, me at the Business Journal and you at TheatreSquared and now Arkansas Children's. So I'm excited to have you in studio today.
Thank you.
So first, before we get into what you're doing now and your role that you stepped into this past summer, I just what's one thing that has stood out to you early on in your second go around at Arkansas Children's, and we'll get into that later in the program. But you started at Arkansas Children's in June, so 6 months in. Give me your scorecard so far.
6 months in, it's incredible. I have been absolutely blown away by the team at the Arkansas Children's Foundation. There's about 50 team members in total, and they are all brilliant experts. So I go to work every day, and not only am I, executing some of the projects that I'm personally working on, but I'm also just surrounded by experts, and I feel really fortunate. I've got a solid team that I'm working with here, where there's going to be 8 of us in total here in Northwest, and we're just rocking and rolling.
Yeah, sounds like you've learned the landscape and met a ton of people, and I'm excited to talk about that and your work and what you do and get into it. So, well, first let's rewind a little bit and let's go back to your UCA class of 2006. So a proud alum of the university. What brought you to UCA originally? What brought 18-year-old Corey Gilmore from Lake Hamilton High School in Piercy, right outside of Hot Springs, right? Tell me the circumstances of how you wound up in Conway at UCA.
Yeah. So, the short version of the story is that I was a high school kid that needed financial support. So UCA offered a scholarship, and that paired with student loans made college possible for me. But I will say what kept me at UCA was I spent a lot of time thinking back on that experience, and what really kept me there was the amazing professors that I had, the community that they've built there. You feel like you're not just another face in the crowd. You develop real close relationships with your professors. They're looking out for you. They want you to succeed. So that, I think, is what meant so much to me. And of course, I also built some great friendships while I was there too.
Yeah. And I think mass communications and political science was your double major there. That's a fun combination. What was on your mind with that right there?
Yeah, well, I started off in mass communications, and I really enjoyed it. And I initially had political science as my undergrad. And as I was taking more and more classes, I realized that I could actually spend another year focusing on political science, and ended up with a focus on international relations. And what was incredible to me was that I really, at that point in my life, hadn't ever been surrounded by people who could really kind of broaden my worldview. They helped me understand what was happening, across the world in a way that I had never thought of before. So that, I think, that political science puts together economics, history, law, and it was for the first time that I really was able to sort of put all the puzzle pieces together and realize that, with a little more focus on political science, that I could, possibly move that into more of a career. So that's how I landed that.
What do you remember about, you said you recalled the strong community at UCA. What do you remember about your campus life? Was there a Greek component? Were you in any student organizations? You mentioned a strong group of some professors that really stuck with you. What do you just recall about campus life?
Yeah, campus life was so fun. So, I just look back on it just with a huge smile on my face. I was paired with a roommate who I didn't know previously. We were just randomly paired. And I remember she came home after she was rushing a sorority. She got her bid into the sorority, and she said, there's another sorority that actually has a couple of open spots and they're doing an open bid. And I had honestly no idea what she was talking about. I didn't know any of the language. And she said, you should just go for it. So I did. She coached me up and kind of taught me, what are some questions to ask and how to be engaged in the conversation. And so I ended up rushing Alpha Sigma Alpha, which was one of the best decisions I think I've made. I, through that, have held on to some great lifelong best friends, many of who that I'm still really close with today. So that has been really remarkable.
Did that maybe in some ways lay the groundwork for this, this development path that you got on later in career? Because, I think when people think Greek life, they think of Greek life, but there's also the altruistic part of it and the, service over self part of it that you do that, goes unnoticed. Maybe. Yeah. So their National Philanthropy is Special Olympics, and I did have the opportunity to work on a couple of their events and things. And so that was really my first understanding of what philanthropy was. I remember not even understanding what that word literally meant. Somebody had to say, oh, you're going to come and volunteer for this nonprofit. And I was like, oh, that sounds incredible. So yeah, I think that really was kind of my first experience with that. I think most college students, I know I would, if somebody asked me this question, if you asked them that one professor that stands out that really kind of put you on a trajectory, do you have a person in mind? Is there somebody that kind of stands out from your undergrad career? Yeah, I had a couple of exceptional professors. One I'll mention in particular, Dr. Mark Mullenbach. He, I felt like was, and I'm not even sure, let's see how to explain this. He was so engaged, and I feel like he was so intentional with his students and really wanting to make sure that they understood the material, that they were set up for success. Some of the just the overall understanding what political science is. Some of it is challenging. I mean, it's in philosophy and all sorts of things. And so he was able to explain it in a way that for still a kid trying to learn how to navigate the world and ask all the big questions, he really set it up in a way that I felt like was more easy for me to absorb in that time of my life. So. Mark Mullenbach. Okay, well, I hope he'll be glad to hear that. All right, so you go from learning out what the word philanthropy actually means and stands for to, that some maybe thinking of this is my lane, maybe this may be my career. Let's go back to when you were in Little Rock, a decade ago, and doing this type of work for first for Arkansas Children's, and then I think before that it was Arkansas Hospice. So give me, How did you get into this type of career? How did you get into this work to make it your professional life? Yeah, so I actually started off right after college working in politics, and I did that for a couple years and realized that while I have a real interest in politics and current events, that probably wasn't going to be the path that was for me. I, was one of those kind of, you sort of see behind the curtain and realize that, there's other ways that I think I wanted to contribute to society overall. And so, that was my first step. And then after that, I was at Museum of Discovery for a little while. And then I went and actually got a master's degree in public administration. And then from there, I think one of the most transformative experiences I had was working for Arkansas Hospice. That was my first experience. In fundraising. I started off as a communications manager, and my supervisor at the time, her name is Renee Rule. She, I think, saw something in me and took me under her wing and offered me a position on the fundraising team. And that was the first time that I was hooked. I'll tell you a story real quick. I remember she would come and invite me to sit in her office and listen while she made thank you phone calls to donors to thank them for their donation and just say, "Thank you, Mr. Smith. We are so thrilled that you gave $1,000 today. Do you have any idea how transformational this gift is to our organization?" And she was just bursting at the seams with celebration and love for the organization. And and in that process, the donor ends up telling about why they were so compelled to give. And then by the end of the phone call, everybody's in tears and everybody feels great. And I realized that is something that I want to be a part of. Wow. That sounds like that really did stick with you,
Yes.
kind of open your eyes. So from there, what were the circumstances that led you for the first time in your career to the Arkansas Children's Foundation, working in Little Rock?
Yeah, so I had heard, I had attended some fundraising professionals meetings, and I had heard that the fundraising team at Arkansas Children's was essentially the premier place to learn how to fundraise at the highest possible level. So whenever the opportunity presented itself to go and work there, I jumped at it, and it was remarkable.
So I was reading some of your career highlights about $1.5 million in 2019, 500 volunteers. Tell me about that. I hear 500 volunteers and I think, my goodness, that is an event planning. That's event planning and wrangling that and getting that all together. Tell me that story. How did that come together?
Yeah. So during that time, I was working with the Auxiliary, which is a group of women. This was based in Little Rock, and they're volunteers, but they are rock star fundraisers. They are so committed to the organization. They are event planners. They are errand runners. They go and pick up silent auction items. They set very, very high standards for themselves. And just being able to support the work that they were doing was amazing. I feel, and a lot of them are still my friends now. Whenever you're working on special events together, you really get to know each other at a very deep level. The stress and fun of it all comes together. And so, yeah, that was a great experience.
Yeah, the stress and the fun are kind of like go hand in hand when you get into it. What is something else that maybe people don't realize about philanthropy until you're right in the middle of it, and you've grown your career there from the museum and hospice and now at Arkansas Children's. What did you learn in those early first few years once you were involved in it?
Yeah. So I think, people often will say, I could never ask people for money. And while that's part of it, the true role that I have is a facilitator for the impact that they want to make. So many donors, they've come to me and said, I have, $100 and I want to leave a legacy, and, I want to make an impact. Tell me, and then I get the opportunity to share all about the amazing work, the mission that the organization is accomplishing, and really get to tout the people who make that mission happen every day. So I feel like I'm the sort of the facilitator and sort of the Sherpa
Right.
to help make it happen. So I think that's probably a big misconception. So yeah.
Do you miss living in Little Rock? Do you like it?
I loved Little Rock.
Yep.
I think Little Rock is fantastic. It was a great place, especially in my mid-20s. The music scene there is great. The food scene there is great. I had an amazing neighborhood. We lived in Hillcrest. I loved the community aspect of it. So there's a lot of things about it that I miss.
Yeah, and you were also involved in a community sense. I think you had some junior league involvement, which I think you've continued up here today. But how important was that to you to get involved?
I would say that was probably one of the biggest decisions that I made in terms of contributing to my leadership skills, because when you're working with an organization of women and you're all solely focused on doing great work, and it's one of those no ego kind of situations, everybody's learning as they go. You are a volunteer. So, if you have to get up and speak, if you are holding a meeting, that's where I gained a lot of those skills, how to work closely with a team of 15 people who all have different ideas of the direction, the way things need to go. And that to me, I had the opportunity of, serving on the board in a couple of different roles. And I think, and again, learning from the people who are amazing leaders in their own right, various community leaders. So it was great.
Okay. All right, so let's go to the year 2020. We all remember that year. You remember it for maybe something else. You came to Northwest Arkansas with your husband,
Yes.
Evan, also UCA graduate. So talk to us about the circumstances of making your big professional move to Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah. So I accepted the job at TheatreSquared in December of 2019. And we all know what happened shortly thereafter. So it was definitely a wild time to, take a new job, move to a new part of the state. But in taking that job, I had no idea that the doors of the theater would close for several months after that. But I also came at an incredible time during TheatreSquared's growth. So they had just opened the building in August of 2019. They had an amazing donor base, people that had supported the organization for the 15 years that they had been there. So I was able to, organize a team, build on this incredible success that they had already experienced. And in that short, in that 5-year span that I was there, we built a solid annual fund campaign, a robust stewardship program. We created a corporate council, and year over year, we continued to build on that. So I feel fortunate that I got to work with such an amazing team and just be part of the amazing mission there.
Yeah, and I'm sure you reflected on it this past summer as you changed jobs. But just like what you said, what a fantastic time to be part of TheatreSquared and really that rise. I mean, we've all seen the rise of arts in Northwest Arkansas as a whole, and TheatreSquared is a big name brand part of that, really part of the fabric of Northwest Arkansas's art scene. And you were right in the middle of that. I mean, that has to be, I'm sure it was bittersweet, but also incredibly rewarding to look back on those 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I came away with was a new and profound respect for artists who are doing the work. So, we get to see the final beautiful product and it all is perfect, but just being able to work alongside those amazing artists and technicians every day and see the amazing work and the craft that is behind it all was just really neat. And I came away also just feeling that art isn't just a nice thing to have, because so much there's many important nonprofits, so many important causes, and art is another one of those. TheatreSquared is another one of those. So one thing that I always wanted to hit home was that, the true cost of a ticket at TheatreSquared is $125. And, most people are paying about $40 for a ticket. So the difference is philanthropy. Mm-hmm. So when individuals are supporting philanthropy, that keeps those tickets affordable, or supporting an organization that keeps tickets affordable. But I think also art is what makes a place worth living in. It's what gives the place its character and its soul and sets it apart from any other place that you can live. It's truly the fiber that kind of keeps us all connected. So, I'm really proud of that.
And it sounds like I would think, there are certain principles of philanthropy and fundraising that transfer, whether you're doing it for healthcare, whether you're doing it for the arts. Yeah. But that is, as you probably learned, an entirely different muscle. Now, you didn't get to do it probably as the way you envisioned because of COVID in 2020. But what did that fundraising for the arts, what did that point of your career teach you about what is transferable for philanthropy?
Yeah, I think one of my the main things that it taught me was the importance of community partnerships. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you a quick story. So I had done some research on the social isolation and the loneliness epidemic, and learned that, by watching a play, people feel more connected to the people sitting in the audience. They feel connected to humanity as a bigger picture. So I thought, I wonder if there's a way that we can take sort of the science behind art and the loneliness epidemic and sort of mental health and physical health and put that all together in a panel discussion. And so we brought together some mental health experts, some physicians, local physicians, and the response was, I was blown away by the response. The community showed up for the event in a way that I was not expecting. The buzz after the event, people were just overwhelmed with the conversation and just like having the opportunity to talk about social isolation at a deeper level. And through that, long story short, was that now TheatreSquared has a partnership with the Alice Walton School of Medicine, where they are working together on curriculum that uses theater techniques to better engage with patients and essentially better health outcomes. So amazing stuff.
Only in Northwest Arkansas.
I got the chills just talking. Yes, I know. Exactly. Only in Northwest Arkansas. And along with that, we connected with a group called the Vibe Tribe, which their whole goal is to fight social isolation. And we got to host events for people in the community connect. So I'm just really proud of the foundation that sort of set. And with that put back into my mind, the importance of healthcare. So that sort of was the bridge to my next step going back into Arkansas Children's Foundation.
Right. Well, you should be proud of that. Great 5 years there. And you make a great segue just for me because that's where we were headed. So you started in June as the Executive Director of Philanthropy for Arkansas Children's here in Northwest Arkansas. So how did that job transition come about? Tell me the circumstances of how you began to pursue this opportunity and land there.
Yeah. So I had started, just thinking about what were my next steps. And honestly, the conversation around healthcare just kind of re-sparked my interest in it. And the opportunity kind of presented itself. It's one of those things I feel like throughout my life, most things have happened really serendipitously and just the timing it just worked out. And that's kind of when it's time to make the move. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, I took the job this summer, and my team is incredible. We oversee 2 of our flagship events, which is Will Golf for Kids and Gala of Hope. And then that also includes the ACNW Auxiliary, which is members of 150 members who organize 4 different fundraising events and also have various volunteer opportunities in the hospital. And that includes Children's Miracle Network Partnership, which is our national partnership with various companies across the country. And the biggest partner, of course, is our Walmart and Sam's Club partnership. Yeah. So it is a incredibly powerful and important job, and I feel so lucky that I have it.
Yeah, and that hospital is only getting bigger too. Now, you don't work on the construction side at all, do you? Not involved in that.
I don't. But I
eagerly anticipating it.
Yes. But that is our primary focus right now for fundraising is our expansion project. So that is an $82.7 million project. And the first phase of it will be done very soon. It'll also include 16 new inpatient beds, 30 new outpatient beds, an expanded infusion and hematology and oncology clinic. Plus, we're looking to recruit 30 new providers. So, expansions always sound fun and they are incredible, and it'll be amazing to see a new building. But the true impact are going to be the kids of the Northwest Arkansas region who will have better access closer to home. So, right now, so many of our patients are driving or flying to Little Rock to receive care. And we feel like that's something that we can address with philanthropy. We need more patients staying here, because what happens is when they do have to drive to Little Rock, they're spending money on gas and food and hotels. And it creates a financial burden that is unsustainable for most families. So this really is a way for us to provide the Northwest Arkansas community what it needs next for pediatric health care.
Yeah, you mentioned Little Rock, and for folks who may not know, Arkansas Children's is a Little Rock-based enterprise. It's a statewide healthcare organization, but statewide impact, obviously. But what is unique about raising support? Your work is focused strictly on Northwest Arkansas. Kind of like my work for UCA in Conway is focused strictly on Northwest Arkansas. What is unique about raising support in this region? We all know there's so much nonprofit support. There's so much philanthropy. There's so much giving. What is unique about Northwest Arkansas?
Yeah, I think what sets Northwest Arkansas apart are the community leaders, the companies and the individuals that really prioritize philanthropy, and they lead the charge. And I think, with them leading the charge, it really sets the tone for what's the expectation to be a citizen in Northwest Arkansas. And to me, that means if you have the means, you should be supporting the nonprofit that is closest to your heart, that no one just gets to sit back and kind of just passively take advantage of all of the great amenities that we have here. So I think that's probably the key thing.
What does it mean to be a citizen of Northwest Arkansas? I like that. That would give anybody enough to think about. And there is something, because we said there's so many nonprofits and areas to give, you could find something that's close to your heart, no matter who you are, no matter what that might be. What are the big opportunities for Arkansas Children's Northwest in 2026 that people should know about?
Yeah. So it's funny that I'm here today because today is actually Giving Tuesday, which is one of the biggest days to donate. Probably it's Giving Tuesday and December 31st are the days people like to give. And so I know the listeners won't hear this today, but I think it regardless of whenever you decide to give, every single dollar makes such a difference. And we're working on this $82.7 million expansion, and you can hear that and easily think, my $20 will be a drop in the bucket to that. And that's absolutely not true. It literally will take thousands of people coming together to make that goal attainable. So, I think expansion is the thing that I will underline. It is our biggest and most important project. It's the one that's going to have the most major impact. The other thing I'd like to mention is that, right now with and everybody's aware of this, the overall cost of everything is going up: housing, healthcare, groceries, childcare, all of it. That's also going to cause an increase in uncompensated care. So, Arkansas Children's will absorb those costs for families that don't have the ability to pay. But again, it takes philanthropy to make sure that we can offset that and still keep the incredible care level to the highest standard.
Mm-hmm. I want to get your take on a couple of leadership questions now that you've been in a leadership capacity for some time with TheatreSquared and now with Arkansas Children's here and the teams that you lead. Think about the last 10, 12, 15 years or so. Who has helped shape your leadership style? Who is really, is it a boss or a mentor or a family member? Who do you think about most when I say leadership?
Yeah. So, one position that I hadn't mentioned yet was I also briefly worked at the administrative office of the courts. And while I was there, one of my jobs was to work on exhibits of past judges, important moments in history that had to do with the administrative offices. And so, I got to spend probably a week solid with former Arkansas Chief Justice Jack Holt. And he would come to my office, and part of it was, I was creating a timeline and I had all these things that I wanted to do for this exhibit, but he would just come into my office and tell me the story of his life. And it was one of the most transformative experiences that I had as a young person, because let me just tell you, and I've got this written down here, so I'll refer to my notes, but he actually is responsible for a landmark lawsuit against the Arkansas Penitentiary because I'll cite the Encyclopedia of Arkansas here. Yeah. A landmark lawsuit against the Arkansas Penitentiary that caused the Arkansas prison system to be declared unconstitutional, triggering judicially inspired prison reforms in many states. And it's hard to even fathom something that significant happening, period, that someone made that, sure that, they saw all the injustice happening in the prison systems and decided that they were going to tackle it, and that I got to sit in front of him and hear it on a firsthand basis. There's that story, but there's many other stories of his incredible life. Yeah. Yes. So I would highly encourage anyone to Google Arkansas Chief Justice Jack Holt. He was brilliant. And again, it's just one of those things where you're like, I can't believe that I get to sit in front of him and listen to him tell the story. So he was one. Another one was Deanna Corti. So she ran an organization called Riverfest, which was a huge music and arts festival in Little Rock.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And I was a volunteer for Riverfest for 10 plus years. And I got to see her in action we had several meetings throughout the year, but every summer during that week, she was just absolutely inspirational. She was so hardworking, the appreciation that she had for the volunteers doing the work, the love that she had for the mission, that stuck with me. And, I think it was hundreds of volunteers that came together every year to pull that off.
Yeah.
She, I think, was the only paid employee, and she relied so heavily on the volunteers. And you could tell that she genuinely appreciated and admired the work that they were doing to pull it off.
Well, you're pulling your Little Rock card with the Riverfest reference.
Yes,
there.
yes.
That's a good one. That's an old school Little Rock reference. So, so you moved here 5 years ago, Northwest Arkansas. You live in
Fayetteville.
Okay, so you're Fayetteville, funky, Washington County, I guess. What have you seen? You've seen everything evolve fast in 5 years. What maybe stands out as far as what's been the most impactful change in Northwest Arkansas in 5 years?
Yeah. So I think, as we continue to experience exponential growth, there's also been an exponential need that's followed that. So, I would say most nonprofits are working harder than they've ever worked. Everyone is sort of spreading out their philanthropic dollars differently. So that's a big one. But I think at the heart of it, something that I've noticed at the core of what makes Northwest Arkansas special are honestly the people who are working in restaurants, the teachers, the artists, the small business owners, the healthcare workers, all of the people that, are often in some thankless jobs behind the scenes, making the place that we live special. So that to me is something that I maybe didn't pay as much attention to, that I feel like now is just more front and center for me.
Right. And now that you've got 5 years of perspective to see some things and kind of learn some things about Northwest Arkansas, what is something that, outsiders, from Little Rock or Hot Springs or wherever in Arkansas, what do they still not get about Northwest Arkansas? What do they miss about this place? Maybe what's a common misconception about Northwest Arkansas?
I'm not sure. I think most people have a pretty good understanding of what Northwest Arkansas is about and what it stands for, and what, kind of how we're evolving over time. And I think so many people, people who maybe aren't planning to move here, love to come here just for a weekend away. So I think it's cool that, this has kind of become a little bit of a vacation spot for people too. I mean, obviously you have, football and all of that, but there's just so many other great things that are worth making the trip for.
Yeah, the food and the art and the everything. I think my eyes were first opened to that. This was probably about 10 years ago when the Preacher's Son, and it was called the Sanctuary then in Bentonville, was open. And this is a story given to me secondhand from a guy who was sitting at a table, but they were sitting, he and his wife were sitting in there Friday night and had met a couple sitting next to them from Kansas City, and they had just flown down to have dinner at the Sanctuary, and then we're going to fly back. We're people flying to Bentonville to have dinner and then flying back home. And it's only just gotten more unique, let's say, as the years have gone by. So truly, it's a great place to be a philanthropist and a fundraiser and a citizen, as you've discovered, you and Evan have discovered the past 5 years. So let's talk about UCA and us showing up here and my job of connecting with alums and connecting with business partners up here. Where do you see opportunities for UCA? If you could have an audience with, the president or whoever, your favorite professor, about how we need to show up here, what would your advice be? Where do you see opportunities for UCA to expand our presence here?
Yeah, I think for me, and I know everyone says this, but it is so true. The continued need for networking and building, close professional relationships with people across sectors. So, being in the fundraising sector, I am familiar with, a lot of the amazing people that work in fundraising, go to the association meetings and all these things, but I don't often have the opportunity to visit with people that are in the, financial industry, who are doing, work in wealth management, or, someone who, is working in the technology field. I mean, there's so many other big industries here. And I think, having the opportunity to, connect with other alum in a way that there isn't that space already set for that kind of conversation. And I think whenever you're able to build those connections, so many organic partnerships will come from that in ways that if, you passively see someone on LinkedIn, it just won't happen. Being able to share ideas and figure out how we can partner and work more effectively and efficiently together, I think that is key.
Right. Are there things about UCA that are going on campus that you would like to know more about? Is there something you've learned about, maybe as you've thought about UCA a little bit more than maybe you have coming onto this podcast? Anything that maybe piques your interest about, I'd like to learn more about that, or I'd like to learn more about this program or what's happening on campus?
Yeah, I think I'd like to stay after, having this conversation, and being able to reflect on my time in the political science department and the mass communications department. I kind of realized that I should probably spend some more time reconnecting with some of those professors and, former colleagues, just to kind of see what they're up to and, again, how we could possibly work together.
Well, you mentioned networking and working together. I mean, we've got about 4,000 alums in Benton and Washington County. So there's plenty of opportunity. Do you feel like networking is maybe a skill or a habit that is maybe most impactful for young professionals to have right now?
I do. Yeah. I do. And honestly, I will say that I feel like has been the key to a key to my success, is being able to walk into a room and introduce myself to anyone who's in there. It may be the CEO of the organization and feeling comfortable enough just to introduce myself and say hello and carry on a brief conversation. I think that those moments do add up, because as everyone is well aware, the job market is challenging. And so, any job that I've ever had that I have posted, you get 100 applicants, and, being able to decide who you're going to interview, unless you've had a personal interaction with someone, you're probably going to look to, hire just the person who on paper has the most experience. Whereas the person with the most experience may not necessarily be the best fit. But if I had the opportunity to meet that person, maybe through an internship, or maybe they volunteered at some point, or I said hi, they introduced themselves to me at a chamber event or something like that. Being able to make just those brief connections are, I think, key to stand out in the crowd.
Well, brief connections can lead to lengthy connections too, as well, right? So I think we're at to me, that's one of the differentiators of Northwest Arkansas and other regions, not just in Arkansas, but anywhere. The networking climate here, some people call them business collisions here that just happen, whether you're at this event or this lunch or this networking event, are just, they're robust. I heard a guy, he works for New Road Capital Partners, and he was being interviewed on one of their podcasts, and he had relocated here from New York. And somebody was asking him, how do you describe Northwest Arkansas? I mean, the guy, came from New York. He was a professional in Manhattan. I mean, he was a investment professional, but he moved his family here to work here. How do you describe Northwest Arkansas to people that you used to work with in New York? And his description that I've never forgotten, because it makes so much sense as it relates to networking and meeting people. He equated it to, it's like the first year of college. Everybody that's come here from all over the country, and in some instances the world, they're just trying to meet new people. They're trying to make friends. They're trying to make a new network. And so everybody is just eager to do that, whether you're in a dorm as an 18-year-old or as a 37-year-old professional moved here from whatever the case is. And I thought that's about as apt a description as I could come up with for how do you describe Northwest Arkansas, because there are people moving here from all over the country and even the globe to bring their families here, bring their work here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think the welcoming spirit, the spirit of everyone, wanting to make sure that Northwest Arkansas is the best place that it can be, and that, everybody's looking to, help each other out and to partner together and to collaborate and share resources and connections. It is a place where I feel like people will set their ego aside and they just say, yeah, come on, I can introduce you to so-and-so standing next to me here. I think that is something that definitely sets this space apart.
Right. Well, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
We need to be here. UCA needs to be plugged into the business engine of Arkansas. And so I'm excited about the new year coming up. It'll be my second year working for the university, and excited about it. Excited to meet and continue to meet alums like you. Tell me a little bit more about you and Evan. Do you guys mountain bike? Do you play golf? Tell me what you like to do in Northwest Arkansas when you're not working.
Yeah. So we have a beautiful 6-year-old son. His name is Bertram. Mm-hmm. And we love to visit the art galleries. We love to go to theater. We actually just went to, I'm so proud of this. On Sunday night, we took Bertram to his first rock and roll show. It's one of my favorite local bands, Benjamin Del Shreve, who I've listened to since I was in college. Yep. And we got to take him to that, and he, got to have that experience at George's, which was so cool. So, I think one of my favorite things is that you just never kind of know where your day is going to lead when you're in Northwest Arkansas. So, funny story. A couple of weeks ago, it was on a Saturday night. We went to go eat at Rolando's in Fayetteville, and we stepped outside and we heard a drum circle playing. We walk over the drum circle. There's probably 20 people on drums and, various percussion instruments. And this lady walked up to Bertram and she said, "Here, you want to play?" So he is playing the tambourine. They hand Evan and me maracas. And then we are in the middle of the drum circle dancing and playing. And it was so fun. We probably danced for 30 minutes until it got late. And then we were about to leave and we noticed that the Walton Arts Center just had a new art gallery open. The door was open. We walked in there. That was just like a very unexpected, didn't know we were going to have that moment. So just like, again, the cool things that can happen whenever you're least expecting it.
Well, your son's career path has probably been set in stone now, right? You realize that. I mean, percussion, drums.
Right? We hope.
Well, yeah, what an event. What a fun event. What's your favorite concert you've ever attended?
Ooh, ever?
Ever.
Oh, gosh, that's tough.
What's the most memorable?
One of the most memorable was seeing John Batiste at the Momentary. He plays every genre of music. He is, I can't even put it into words. He's just overall an incredible human being. But the most amazing part was that he actually walked off the stage into the crowd, led sort of a New Orleans style parade through the crowd. He was playing some funny instrument and had a little crew around him. But he walked right in front of me and back in front of me probably 3 or 4 times. He's just right there, just playing this instrument. And I mean, he's a Grammy award-winning artist, formally trained. The guy is brilliant. And just to be able to literally see him so up close and personal was amazing.
Yeah, I'm here in Northwest Arkansas and right out there on the green.
Yep.
I mean, so yeah, the stuff like that are the stories that, all of us can tell here in Northwest Arkansas. And now that this is home for you and your family. Only more stories like that to come. I love the Rolando story. That's great. Well, listen, this whole thing has been great. I really appreciate you coming in. It's been great to visit with you.
Yes, thank you. And I appreciated this opportunity because I really got to spend, from day to day, you're just blowing and going and you just are head down in the work. But it was nice to have the opportunity to actually kind of look back and reflect. And it really filled my heart with gratitude for the experiences that I had at UCA, the amazing professors that I had, the friendships that I gained. And it just feels great. Thank you.
There's a lot of great at UCA and there's a lot to be proud of and there's a lot to look forward to. So I'm excited and very happy to have you as a UCA ally in Northwest Arkansas, and wish you continued success in all that you do for Arkansas Children's and all that you're going to be doing for us as a partner and ally for UCA. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, that is a wrap on this edition of Central to NWA, a UCA podcast. We appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, go Bears. That's it for this episode of Central to NWA, a UCA podcast. I'm Paul Gatling, Senior Director of Northwest Arkansas Engagement for the University of Central Arkansas. Be sure to subscribe to the show and follow UCA on all the appropriate social media. I'll see you next time on Central to NWA.